The Princess of Wales has given an update on the project dear to her heart as she still continues to undergo cancer treatment.
That's right, Rupert and Harry and Meghan celebrate their 6th wedding anniversary. Hello and welcome to Heirs and Spares, the show where we bring you insight and opinion into the lives of two rather famous royal couples on both sides of the Atlantic. I'm Kinsey Schofield, and I'll be bringing you updates on the Duke and Duchess of Sussex right here in California.
Hi, I'm Rupert Bell, and I'll have the latest news about the Princess of Wales as she still continues to undergo cancer treatment.
Okay, Rupert, I think that it's pretty crucial that we acknowledge a pretty big deal over the last few days. Harry and Meghan celebrating their 6th wedding anniversary. They went on a double date with Brian and Tracy Robbins to their favorite steakhouse in Montecito. We see them at this steakhouse quite often. I think it's interesting that we're seeing them with Brian and Tracy. These are the two individuals that they went to the Bob Marley premiere with. They walked the carpet with them. Brian is a Paramount executive. Tracy received one of the golden jam jars, one of the cherished jam jars. I like to see that they are maintaining that relationship because they burn through friends like I've seen some people burn through a pack of cigarettes.
Yes, and I think it is interesting. They can clearly see that there's mileage to be seen with this particular power couple, and they are a power couple. And when you're paying, I wonder who picked up the tab for the $175 porterhouse steak that is possibly on the menu, which they may have eaten. So it wouldn't have been a cheap night out, but I wondered whether they were prepared to pay for their friends to come along. So who was underwriting it? But fine, 6th wedding anniversary. I can't believe that it feels like it was 6 years ago that they were getting married, and the optimism that surrounded the marriage, and particularly in this country, what Meghan was going to bring to the royal party. Well, obviously in that 6 years, an awful lot of water has gone under the bridge. Most of it has been negative as far as they're concerned and their feeling of the royal family, because it went south very quickly. And that's the sad thing. So yes, if they're happily married, that's what they wanted to do, move to California, start a new life. Well, it would be very surprising if they weren't going out on dates to celebrate a wedding anniversary, because it's the new life they want. So happy days. But as you say, friendships, they do not seem to have long-term friendships, but there may be ulterior motives, says he cynically, as to why they're such good friends with these people.
That's so true. Well, I do think that 6 years is a big deal based on, Harry and Meghan have really created this us against the world kind of relationship. They have there's no doubt that they've struggled throughout the last 6 years. And we saw, even in the Netflix documentary, the constant strain it felt like these two were under. Whether they're suing this person or that person, there were a lot of really sad, dark moments throughout that docu-series, and they continue to sue people, and they can, when did they come up for a breath of fresh air? Because it does feel like they're constantly at war with someone. Is that stress on the relationship, or does that continue to strengthen the relationship?
Well, you hope now that they've got to put the stuff that's gone on behind them and move on, because if there has to be a line when they stop being negative about everything or their previous life. Yet at the same time, they want that piece of life. Let's be honest, going to Nigeria, I know we're going to talk about it, the whole thing is they still see their royal connections. Well, they've actually got to now say, what are we? We are not a member of the royal family. We are a commercial entity. Let's be quite clear. That's what they're... Now, it may have a philanthropic sort of bent to it, and that they will be doing some good things through their foundations. But they are a commercially based couple now, and that's how they have to operate. And that means that they are doing commercial deals to make themselves relevant. But when it all comes down to it, so they still go round as the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. So what do they want to be? And I think that's what frustrates people. Their litigious nature is frustrating, but as you know, Kinsey, they want to control the narrative with an inch of their lives. And that's what they did in Nigeria and elsewhere. And that's the point of them. They want to feel that they're in total control. And that, of course, was the ultimate reason why they wanted to leave the royal family, because they didn't have the control and it wasn't going to be their show.
Do you consider, because I have received so many messages about this, and they're not positive, do you consider the Nigerian trip a success? Was that a win for them?
It sort of looked, because they controlled the optics, they would always be in a position to make it, happy, smiling people greeting them. I do not know whether it was beauty was only skin deep here in terms of the optics and what was really going on underneath. And I think that's the problem. It looked, for all intents and purposes, like a royal tour. And that's the thing that I think a lot of people in this country will be frustrated about, because they weren't on a royal tour, yet they were fated by a Nigerian government that hasn't always played the right card, people's perception of what the Nigerian government is about. And it's a country with huge problems, the length and breadth of the land, there's great wealth, there's great poverty, yet there they were ultimately trying to generate interest in the Invictus Games. But the idea of royal visits they have a soft politics, don't they? There is the sort of what goes on behind the scenes. The countries like having members of the royal family there, and then behind the scenes, all the politicians and all the sort of trade people are beavering away in the background behind the optics of the royal family, giving a sort of feel-good factor to that particular royal visit. That's why they are, we've got the Emperor and Empress of Japan coming. There's obviously political undertones to that, even though they will be given the full red carpet treatment. So royal tours are important, but not Duke and Duchess of Sussex royal tours. They have no benefit now. And I think maybe members of the royal family, and if you read some of the press, are sort of saying, what is going on here? Because, they don't want to do royal tours, and yet there they were on one that looked all bar a royal tour, just without the British press being on hand to maybe upset the apple cart if things didn't go quite as well as they'd like.
Well, there was that famous quote that Valentine Lowe revealed, Meghan saying, "I can't believe I'm not getting paid for this." In this specific scenario, she controlled everything. She controlled her schedule. She controlled what she wore. She was in control. And I think that is one of the things, aside from controlling the narrative, I think just control in general is something that is so important to them. So she probably did enjoy this a little bit more than she enjoyed a typical royal tour, because she got to say, I'm showing up an hour and a half late, which ultimately they did, and was so rude to their host.
Well, you wouldn't be able to do that on a royal tour, but that's them, unfortunately. Yeah, and actually, look, were those dresses appropriate that she was wearing? You probably would know more about it than I would, but it seemed to me that everywhere I looked, the person travelling one step behind at all times was Harry, the Duke of Sussex, and he's the one who opened the doors. So you got the sense that everything was about Meghan going back and discovering her 43% Nigerian heritage, which, fine, that's all very good and dandy. But it just felt like that Harry was always having to play second fiddle, because it had to be the Meghan show. But have they achieved stuff on behalf of Archewell? I don't know. Are they going to be doing long-term good projects? I don't know. Will the Invictus Games go to Nigeria? Well, could do. But does he have the final say on that? I don't know. So again, looking at the overall feeling of it, they say they want to do more of them. Well, Meghan wants to do more of them so she can be centre of attention. But do they want to be in the royal family? Why are they doing them? What other couple? We don't see other glamorous couples or celebrity couples going on a royal tour. They seem to be the only ones who are doing this. And, and I don't, what's the point of it?
if you think about the philanthropy that Angelina Jolie does, it's typically very much under the radar. We find out about it months or years later when she's accepting an award from it, because of it somewhere. We had no idea that she'd spent years working with this charity or that charity. It feels very much like it's all for the PR, all for the show. But one thing you said that I think is really important is Harry, chasing behind Meghan, Harry following Meghan. Rupert, he's still the spare. He is still the spare. Complains about it in an entire book, but remains in that position instead of embracing the fact that he's left the family and now he could be the leader. He could be in charge.
Yeah, because everything seems to be the focus on her. And that's what she wants. Because, the actress in her, you're in Tinseltown, you know what actors and actresses are like. It's all about me, and she wants to be a superstar. And this gives her the opportunity to be that, being feted left, right, and center. And that's why I just, you look at it and say, what's their end game here? It's all right going around doing all these PR things, but you actually have to put in the hard yards behind the scenes. And that means working very hard. If they want this, if she wants America Riviera Orchard to work well, she's got to put the hard yards in and not require on people who are just hired hands who, then come along and she shows up for a couple of meetings and says, I don't like that, or I like that, get on with that. It's more, if it wants to be her passion, she's got to be driving everything. Now, she may be, but I get the feeling that, that is not necessarily her strong point. Yes, you can have a figurehead, but all good companies are driven by the person at the top. And, there can be a big organization, but the tone is set from the top. And you've got to make sure that if she's going to be launching this, she's got her team absolutely singing from the same hymn sheet and understand the vision of what they're about. The moment I'm not sure the Duke and Duchess of Sussex know what their vision is post their split from royal, but the one thing you do seem to notice, it means still being called the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, which in America, I go back to, is a land where they don't have titles, yet they seem to be a couple who insist on using their titles, and certainly Meghan does, at every opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen that cycle of employees through Archewell, and not just Archewell, the charity, but the audio program, the production team. Attitude reflects leadership. And when you talk about that vision that they need to have for American Riviera Orchard and Archewell, those are two companies that I can't define. And I do this for a living, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I can't tell you what their ultimate objectives are, what their passions are. I could tell you that they're environmentalists, but they also take private jets. I really don't know what their objectives are as a whole. And there was a great photo I saw, I believe it was yesterday, while doom scrolling, but it was a boat, and it was a meme about leadership, and they were talking about how the good leaders at the front of the boat helping, not the person with the megaphone yelling. The best leader is the one that's contributing. So that reminded me of what you said as well. She needs to get dirty. She needs to really be in all aspects of this if it's going to work for her. There are reports coming from the Express that we should expect Meghan Markle's Summer of Love PR blitz. And they describe this as her realizing she has to soften her image to win people over. I expect her to appear on, Drew Barrymore, Kelly Clarkson, some of these very bubblegum talk shows here in the States. She might do some of the late night programs with the comedians that have been so gentle to Prince Harry. Is she capable of winning people over at this point in time, or do people need a break?
Well, she's an actress, so she knows her part, but basically, if she's going to go on these programs, people will be expecting her to spill the beans. Because if she's just going to talk a bunch of word salads, then, it's going to be pretty dull. But actually, if Meghan's going to go on there, just like we had the book Spare and Harry going on doing things, you expect something. Yes, we know these PR celebrity chat shows, it is all controlled. There's long gone are the days where you just turned up and had a chat and talked and shot the breeze. Those days are long gone because everything is worked out. What what you're going to ask, and they are incredibly anodyne. And that is, that's the problem with them. It's sort of, as you say, it's bubblegum. It's just vacuous. It gives her more opportunity to talk a bunch of word salad. And if it's a summer of love and about how she's, he wants a lot. We all want peace and love. And, in California, they've been offering peace and love since God knows when. But, so the script's not changing much. We all know we've got great intentions to be nice to everybody. But, the world is a confused and troubled place at the moment. And, if she can, she's got a long way to go. She's got to learn to play the long game like Queen Camilla.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And
really
it's got to be a long game. She's got to say, where do I want to be in 10 years' time when my children are teenagers? And where do I see myself? Not where do I see myself in 6 months? Not where I see myself that I've got to say, right, how do I make sure that I'm still relevant 10 years down the line and have a place and a part to play that people actually want to listen to what I say? And that does not come straight easily. Look how long it's taken Queen Camilla to now be the rock of the royal family in what has been a difficult year for the king and indeed her stepson, having to deal with all kinds of issues with cancer. She is the rock, and she has been out there getting out there, having won over, but over a long process that's taken 25 years to get to where she is now. Meghan could have still been out there rock star status if she'd stuck at it, and we would have been needing the Sussexes now more than ever. And this is the sad factor. They could have been the absolute centre of attention as the Prince of Wales takes a back seat while he helps his wife recover. Then you could have said to Harry and Meghan, right, okay, get out there and heavy lift. You're the front and seat of the royal family. The king's not going to be out as much. Now you are the rock stars. They could have had it all. That ship has long since sailed, so it's up to Meghan and Harry to work out how they rehabilitate themselves. And Harry does have rock star when he goes out and about, but he always seems to look a little happier when he's rock starring on his own.
All right, we're going to transition into the Princess of Wales because she deserves it. But I just really want to quickly say, as you were talking about Meghan focusing on the long game and Camilla and who she wants to be in 10 years, all I could think of is this rehabilitation Summer of Love tour. Remember the Meghan Markle squatting, sucking the baby bottle on Ellen DeGeneres? That is not it. Hopefully, whoever advised that is thinking outside of the box, because that's not going to do it for people today.
No, she's got to do it looking like a mature, sensible, interesting, engaged adult that actually has something to say. And look, the older you get a bit of experience. And if you look through her life, yes, she's got plenty of life experiences. She should be able to bring quite a lot to the party that might be of value and help. But I think there's a long way to go. And perhaps what she's got to do is it's like build from within, and you build it brick by brick outwards. Start and just slowly work it out. Don't just go bull in the china shop and think everyone's going to fall in love with me. That's not going to work. There will be, and we do know, of course, there are lots of supporters for Meghan, but they are, just as there are equally people with a different view. So at the same time, she's got to say, how do I become relevant to all and sundry and make myself seem relevant and not just somebody who has, when you look at it, Harry's no longer friends with his family and she's no longer friends with her family. There is a common denominator.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Can you tell me a little bit about the Princess of Wales's new project? This is kind of the first major development we've heard from her since we found out she was getting this preventative cancer treatment. And we found out about it through social media.
Yes, what they're talking about is the early years project, which both William and the Princess of Wales have always said, right, when we do something, it's got to be something that has a long-term project. It's not just turning up, cut a ribbon, and off we go into the sunset. So that's why they've in William's case, it's the homelessness. And for Princess of Wales, it's early learning. And with 3 young children, it is something naturally that you can see why she would be interested, the significance of the early years. Now, we know her children have all the advantages the world's ever going to give them. So therefore, they don't necessarily, they can get everything. I think what Princess of Wales is important is that people in less fortunate circumstances, to help parents who are in difficult circumstances, to make sure young children get a leg up. Now, it's what's been coming out is that the Princess of Wales has been across the developments, and there are big companies in this country getting involved within it. And there's talk that if it's allowed to sort of progress as it should, it could have a benefit to the British economy of £45.5 billion. Now, that's a big money, because what I think where it comes from is actually if you give children a leg up early on, then the long-term benefits to those children will be hugely beneficial down the line. Because if you are, and it seems common sense to me, that if you are starting with children, given a leg up, they have a chance later on. It's when if you miss out and then you're permanently playing catch up, then that's the problem. And that's, I think, very much at the heart of what the Princess of Wales wants to achieve. Now, how much she's able to, do the real work, because, if anyone undergoing cancer treatment, as we know, it's a debilitating process. 1 minute you're up high and you're recovering, and then you've got to go back for another dose of chemotherapy and you're knocked sideways again. So I'm sure she is being kept a brief of all developments as people work behind the scenes to give this project credence. You've got to avoid the politics of it, because obviously we're going to have an election and people jumping on the bandwagon of this. So that's a negotiating sort of area that they've got to be careful of, because I think in the sentiment of what she's saying, nobody would disagree. And hopefully all parties in this country, political parties, can see that what she's actually trying to do is not the worst thing in the world, and full marks to her. And hopefully she will be able to play an even fuller part, because I know I spoke to some people when she came to a place near in Warwickshire, because they've had one of the early developments, and people were saying she was really engaged in it, and it was a really positive thing to see what has been going on in the one of the trial zones near here. It looks good going forward, and it must be very encouraging for the Princess of Wales to see the way it's developing and the positive nature of it. So I'd have to say that for the Princess of Wales, it must be a bit of good news to feel that she is what she's put some impetus behind is starting to grow into something more fruitful.
Absolutely. And palace sources have confirmed that this report was viewed and okayed by the Princess of Wales, which I think for anybody that is concerned about her health, that is encouraging to know that she's still as engaged as you suggested that she is. And I love to hear positive news about the Princess of Wales. So one event that is coming up that we don't expect her to see her at is the Duke of Westminster's upcoming wedding, which I totally understand. But Prince William is expected to have a bit of a role in that. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yes, well, he's likely to be an usher. Now, the Duke of Westminster, he's one of the richest men in this country, owns great swathes of land. He's a young lad. His father died young, and he's basically got bits of land. He owns most of central London, or the leasehold, freehold on lots of central London properties and tracts of land throughout the Grosvenor estates. They're not short of a bob or two. So I suppose he's, I think, dubbed Britain's most eligible bachelor, but after June the 6th, no longer. When he gets married in Chester Cathedral, which is near his hometown, and they're from Cheshire. So it will be a glittering occasion. Now, there is talk, there was talk that the King might go and the Queen. I'm told that at a previous wedding, the Queen didn't want, and this has happened a way long ago before the King got married, they were both Camilla and Charles were asked, but protocol dictated that they couldn't sit together, and the King, the current King, wasn't too happy with that. But the Queen didn't allow that to happen. So I'm sure there'll be plenty of members of the current royal family here, and I think, given the nature of the King's schedule, probably going up to Cheshire and his schedule having to be managed, it will be convenient for him not having to go there. But it is good that William, one of his close friends, the Duke of Westminster, to be an usher, that basically means you're one of his besties and you're going to be placing people. You go up to people and you ask the question bride or groom, and that means you're either sitting on the left-hand side or right-hand side. It's always good to know if you've been put near the front and you've actually got a placement, because if you haven't, you're at the back and you're just fighting for your rights at the back of Chester Cathedral. But I don't know whether everybody will be sitting and all be seated, but it will be a big thing. And I'm sure there will be lots of people lining the streets of Chester. He's a very popular figure in the area. Actually, doesn't just live in his big, I think it's called Eaton Hall, if my memory serves me correctly. But they're a down-to-earth couple, as much as they can be when you're Britain's richest man.
What do you think about reports that he thought about inviting Prince Harry, but ultimately decided against it because he didn't want to spoil his future wife's big day with that, PR distraction, with those headlines about, family friction and Prince William being there?
I think he's absolutely right not to. And I think Harry probably, he has got to come over. It's a shame because he should be there. But I think that's inevitably anytime we see Harry in town, it's a PR distraction. We saw it at the coronation. We see it because they're all looking to highlight the rift is out there and see what the body language is and all that rubbish. But you know what I mean? We know that's the subplot to it. And again, it's a private affair. But yes, we'll all see them walking into Chester Cathedral. And if Harry comes in, who's he walking with? Oh, he's not with him. He should be walking with his brother or whatever. Or he should be an usher. I'm glad that we haven't got that soap opera. But that's just a reflection of where the Harry and William saga is. Harry's the one missing out. And bearing in mind, he seems to have lost a lot of his close friends. There are one or two, but in the main, his close friends that he would go on holiday with and, behave disgracefully or whatever they were getting up to at various stages in their lives, he doesn't seem to have them around anymore. So it's all a bit sad, really, and sad that he can't come over. But let's be honest, he's not next door. He's the other side of America. And as you know, you're coming over here. It's not a short flight. It's 12 hours. And, okay, maybe quicker in a private jet. But if that is the sadness that he's not going to be there to see one of his friends, and family friends that they would have been brought up with and known well, that he can't actually be there. But it's just a further reflection on the sadness of the breakdown between the two brothers.
Yeah, and it also reminds me of he used to vacation with him, and they used to be big buddies. And there was the headline a few weeks ago about Sophie Trudeau saying, yeah, I know Meghan Markle. They used to literally vacation together, and now there's this distance. It's like, can these people keep anyone in their circle? Really quickly, can you tell me about the King of Compost?
Yeah. Well, we don't say compost. I think that's a tomato and tomato pronunciation there, Kinsey. It's the King of Compost.
Oh,
not
compost.
Compost. Okay, to give it proper. Now, because one of the great sort of spring events in this country is the Chelsea Flower Show, which takes place in the heart of London at the Royal Hospital. That's the place where they have the Chelsea pensioners. But they turn this area into a giant garden. And Monday, they have a sort of pre-opening day, and all the celebrities and royal family went round. And there was a children's one. And I think they handed him a card and said, you're the King of Compost, which actually, given his love of gardening, and he does love gardening, and he is more than happy to sort of get stuck into, out with his shears and prune and weed. Well, pick up the odd weed, because I'm sure there are plenty of under gardeners out there. But he is passionate about gardening. So he was called the King of Compost. Meanwhile, the Queen was called the Queen of the Bees, because she does actually keep bees, I believe, in her house in Wiltshire. So we've got the King of Compost and the Queen of the Bees attended the Chelsea Flower Show yesterday. And it was great to see him in his happy place, because he looked really happy there. It was a lovely sunny day. So everything was looking tickety-boo. and he was in his element. And he's in for a busy time over the next few weeks because we're in the D-Day celebrations, Trooping of the Colour, Ascot, which I know you're booted and suited and ready for, amongst other things that he will be expected to attend. But I know he would have enjoyed yesterday. And looking at the pictures, they were guffawing and happy as they were walking around. And now we have to just hail him as the king of compost, not whatever you said it was.
Compost. I can't wait.
Compost.
I'm gonna start saying that here in America and watch the way that people look at me funny. I don't care.
Yeah.
I'll do what I want. All right, Rupert, it's been so much fun to catch up with you this week. Thank you so much for being my heir expert. And you are just so knowledgeable on this topic. So thank you so much for your time today.
Well, it's been a pleasure, and look forward to seeing you at Ascot. And that's how you pronounce it, not Ascot, okay? Ascot.
Ascot.
It's like
Royal Ascot.
Royal Ascot, okay?
Oh, beautiful. Oh my gosh. Yeah, because we call it the Kentucky Derby here. And Kevin O'Sullivan's like, it's the Derby.
Well, no. You can call it the Kentucky Derby, but it's not it's not the original one. Our one takes place Saturday week, first Saturday in June, and the English Derby at Epsom will take place. The interesting thing is, the Queen always used to go. I somehow don't think the King there. We might see the Queen there because it is one of our great racing occasions, but it's unlikely that the King will be at the Derby.
Oh my goodness, so fun. Wow, this is an educational process too. Who knew? I'm loving it. All right, well, I'm going to see you at Ascot. I'm going to see you at Royal Ascot soon. If you agree with Rupert and I, which I'm pretty sure you do, let me know in the comments below. If you don't, that's where you can voice your opinion as well. Thanks so much for watching Heirs and Spares. Make sure you subscribe to our channel, and we appreciate your time. We'll see you again next time.